Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel Say What's Real TV. This review is for Tyler Perry's Sistas, Season 6, Episode 2, Full Circle Moments. So we open up the episode with Andy taking Danny home from Billy Jake's. So they're just talking, kicking the bobo, and Danny asks Andy, is she rushing home to be with Gary and his donkey? So of course, Andy does not want to talk about Gary. So Danny feels like, well, you've been talking about me all night. Why we can't talk about that? So Andy tells her, look, everybody gets their chance in the hot seat. This is nothing new. We've been doing this since college. You know we love you. And Danny, she looks at her and she's like, well, I know you girls love me. I know you're concerned, but I just feel like you guys do way too much, which is ironic coming from Danny, right? So Andy fixed her mouth to say that they should probably allow each other to have their own journey. And Danny is like, oh, what a revelation. So she's like, what, you mean you and Gary? Because Andy just basically tried to say that so the girls can keep their foot off her neck when it comes to her dealing with that raggedy behind Gary. So she says, well, you know I'm going to leave him, right? Danny gives her a look like, She said, for real, I am. Danny says, well, I believe you, but the real question is, girl, when? Before the wedding or after the divorce? That was some real talk. Then she tells Andy, I just feel like you let things go way too far and out of control before you put a stop to it. Andy does agree to that, but she really doesn't want to talk about it anymore because now she's turning up music, trying to play music in the car, and now she wants to sit in silence. She wants to meditate, and basically she's deflecting. And Danny was like, okay, girl. So Danny, she finally makes it home. So she gets inside, locks the door behind her, heads straight to the refrigerator, and when she opens it up, there's nothing in there but a bunch of alcohol, just a couple of bottles of whatever. So she grabs one of the bottles from out of there and turns around, and Jonah is standing right behind her looking crazy as hell. And she does not even ask this man, how the hell did he get in her house? Like, that is what I want to know. And she doesn't flinch. She doesn't seem fazed. She just proceeds to crack her neck like, get the hell up out my house. He like, oh, you didn't think I was going to let you get away with what you did. And basically, she smashed the bottle that she had in her hand over his head, and they went at it. They go to tussling. All the while they're having this going on the inside, we see Preston on the outside getting ready to knock on the door. So he's listening and like, oh, she got a dude up in there. Like, it wouldn't be the first time, Preston. It wouldn't be the first time, but this is not really what you think it is. So he gets in his little feelings. So he goes into his car like, thinking she got yet another dude in there. So he gets in the car. He's contemplating like, what am I doing? Like, why he keep taking himself through this? And he's like, F her, this and that. But I guess he decide he gonna change his mind, and he goes back up to the apartment. So we go back inside. Danny and Jonah, they in there rolling all over the floor, tussling at it. Preston, he comes inside. He barges his way through the door some kind of way, and he sees the scuffle being taken place. So he goes and pulls Jonah off of Danny, starts whipping up on him real good. And the two of them get the double teaming Jonah, and I was all the way here for it. I was like, get him. So they beat him down to a pulp, kind of like how it was with Sabrina and Calvin beating Q down on the floor with the golf club. But, Sabrina wasn't doing the goddamn thing. But anyway, they left Jonah all balled up, curled up. So he had to pull Danny up off of him because Danny went into beast mode at that point, ready to unalive Jonah. And then this moment is where I feel like I felt some kind of way about Preston, and in a good way, because all of us have been mad at Preston about the whole ultimatum thing with Mindy and him in the bar with Mindy, and how ridiculous all that is. But in this moment, when he held her down, it was like, look, I'm here for you. I love you. I got you. And I really love that part of the scene. So we go over there to Andy's with the foolishness with Gary. He's still laying in the bed with all the rose petals or whatever all over him. Tells her, like, he feels like he needs to be punished. He's been a bad boy. And she says, well, his first punishment is not being able to touch her. And he thinks she's playing because he figured, I'm looking good up in this bed. There's no way you can resist all this. I'm ripped up. I'm fine as wine. All of that. Like I said, he think he the shit. So she was like, no, your second punishment is we need to talk. They get into this argument about Robin. We really don't give a damn because y'all didn't tell us where Robin is at and why he didn't show up to that meeting in the finale of season 5. So until I find that out, I don't care about arguments about Robin. Who told what, who helped what, I don't care. So she basically was like, I need you to go home. You need to leave. She says this a few times. He worms his way out of that in some kind of way. She says, well, you can stay in the guest bedroom. So he goes over to the guest bedroom. Now, Andy, girl, this just goes to show just how weak you are, because when you tell somebody that you want them out your house, he needs to be out of the house. Not in the kitchen, not in the bathroom, not in the guest bedroom, but gone. Go home. Go where you reside. Like, bye. See you later. Like, girl, say what you mean and mean what you say. So we're going to stay on Gary and Andy to get them out of the way. So Gary, he calls Hayden the next morning, tells Hayden that Andy is mad as hell about the whole Robin situation and that she knows this and that and the other. We've already been through all of that. So Hayden tells him everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Gary is thinking like, Robin's real slick, this and that and the other. It's whatever. So Hayden tells him, we're good. He says, look, I'm handling something right now. And Gary was like, what, that girl's still over there? He was like, yeah. So Gary was like, you just met her. Be careful. So, Hayden is questioning him like, what, you don't think I could get a girl like that? And I'm trying to figure out, when did Gary ever meet Tamara or ever see her to think that she was such a bad bee that Hayden couldn't even pull her? Like, he saw Heather in the office, but I don't remember him seeing her. But we know it has nothing to do with that. Gary is miserable, and you know what they say, misery loves company. He didn't get none last night. He done got kicked out the bedroom with Andy, so now he hear that Hayden over there happy and enjoying life, so now he want to put a wrench in it. So he's like, what's her full name? Let me vet her. I think you should vet her. And Hayden is like, I already did that. I'm good, which he lying. But, he's like, I'm good. I can handle this. I got this. So Gary going on. And Hayden had to tell him, like, look, you talk about me going off on the deep end and falling for the girl. Like, where you calling me from? You over there at Andy's house where you clearly have gone off the deep end. So you just do you, bro, and let me do me. And we already know that Gary is going to find a friend of a friend of a friend to find out all the information he needs to find out to vet Tamara so that Hayden can be just as miserable as he is. So he hangs up the phone with Hayden because now Andy is walking out the bedroom. So Andy comes out, says she's on her way to work. So Gary, he tries to apologize for the night before, and he says that he's sorry, and all of a sudden it goes left. And he really doesn't know what he's sorry for because he don't see that he did anything wrong. So Andy wants to know, is he going to try to eliminate every guy that she works with? Gary's not getting it. So Andy basically was like, I'm not doing this. I got to go to work. So the two of them, they basically head out. So we head over there to Sabrina's, and she's sitting on the couch. She gets a knock on the door, and she's like, who is it? It's Calvin. She sit back down, like, come in. Like, why is your door unlocked, girl? So he comes in and basically tells her everything that happened at the airport the night before. And I'm kind of surprised that Calvin didn't rush over to Sabrina in the middle of the night to tell her all the tea. So he's, like, taking his time, getting the story out, like, oh, he went to confront Q, and she's like, oh, I'm tired of hearing Q's name. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, he shot Q. Like, shouldn't you have already said all that? Like, he just taking his little time. So Sabrina, of course, she's shocked and appalled and like, oh my God, I can't believe it, blah, blah, blah. I got to call him. And in walks Maurice, just out of the blue. He walks in, door still unlocked. And then Calvin got the nerve to be like, oh, do you knock? Like, this not your house, Calvin. Like, hush. So Maurice, he comes in, sit down, And, basically, like, he don't want to talk about Q. He's like, it is what it is. I'm here and he got a hole in him, so whatever. He said, I'm here to talk about us getting our job back. So Sabrina is like, they're not having it. They've launched this full investigation, and basically we're just on leave. And Maurice is like, well, basically it means we're fired. She's like, no, we're on leave. So Maurice, if you think you're fired, then go and try to find you another job until everything gets settled then. I mean, and like they were telling you, it's all your fault to begin with, because you're the one that was sleeping with Q in the first place. So you're an employee that was actually sleeping with the guy that actually robbed the bank. So they're going to look to you before they look to Sabrina, I would think. But anyway, so he's hurling all these little insults, calling her this and that and the other, which, hey, Sabrina, if you like it, I love it, girl, because you haven't checked them yet about it. So I'm not even going to dwell on it. Y'all like the insults. Y'all deal with it. So it's just, it is what it is. So he goes to her refrigerator talking about he hungry because he withering away. And he looks in the refrigerator and doesn't see any food. And talking about, oh, you didn't get your stamps. You broke B. Like, Maurice, you over at her house. Like, do you have any money? So Sabrina, she gets up and she goes in there and fix breakfast. And Maurice, he over there tearing it up, talking about, oh, so you can cook and it was good. Calvin says that he has to get to work, so he won't be able to eat anything. So Maurice teases him and calls him Tommy from Martin because nobody ever knew where he actually worked at. So once Calvin leaves, Maurice messes with Sabrina about her and Calvin kissing each other bye. And Sabrina all frowned up like that is not an option. And basically she didn't want to talk about that. They got more important things to be talking about, more serious issues to deal with. So Maurice says he has everything under control and he's going to have it to where Q tells the truth about the situation. And Sabrina's trying to convince him that, he's just going to make everything worse. Like, leave Q alone. And, you just better be glad that, he's still alive. And Maurice don't give a damn about that. So Sabrina was like, there's just no talking to you. So he's like, well, talk to corporate or call Miss Mims. And Sabrina was like, I already told you I've done that. They're not having it. He was like, well, I never liked Miss Mims anyway. She looked like a foot. She smelled like a foot, and a diabetic foot at that. Maurice just say anything out of his mouth. Now, what? Anyway, so Sabrina is like, I don't have time for you and your shenanigans. And he was like, well, that's your business. He said, I got to get our jobs back. So he stands up and she's like, well, where are you going? He said, I'm going to see about my man. I'm going to the hospital. How my titties look. She said, leave a man alone. You're going to make things worse. Talking to Maurice is like talking to a brick wall. So he already told her there's nothing you can do or say that's going to stop me. That's where I'm going. He insists on getting Q to confess. So he is on his way to the hospital. So we head back over there to Danny's house and we see that they actually did call the police this time. The officer, he's there taking a report from Danny, getting all the information he needs. We learn from Danny that she already has a restraining order against Jonah. And the officer, was like, we'll be in touch. And he also lets Danny know that he's glad that she is okay. And I was glad they put that little line in there to show that the officer did have some compassion to the situation. So Preston, he tries to clean up a little bit around the place, and Danny tells him he doesn't have to do that. And he was like, well, I just wanted to tell you I'm glad I came back because I almost didn't. And Danny was like, well, why did you? He said, because I wanted to confront the dude that was here. And he just said, just the bottom line, I'm just glad I came back. And I know you're glad too. She does thank him for coming back and that she was glad that he came back. So she was like, I'm tired. I just want to go to bed. And she thinks Preston getting ready to leave. But Preston over there taking his shirt off, getting ready to lay on the sofa. And she's like, well, what are you doing? He said, I'm not letting you stay here by yourself. I was like, that's right. Put your foot down. Put your foot down. And he said, look, I know you got it. I know you strong, but I'm not letting you stay here tonight by yourself. I said, that's what I'm talking about. And she brings up Mindy. I'm like, girl, why are you worried about Mindy? If she want to be dumb over there in the motel, hotel, wherever she at, let Mindy be dumb. I mean, it is what it is. Preston loves you. You love him. It is what it is at this point. Either y'all gonna shit or get off the pot. Like, I mean, Mindy already know what time it is, and he tells her that Mindy also said that she saw that herself. So, I mean, eventually, she'll get the picture. So basically, she was like, stay, do what you want to do. But of course, he's going to stay with her tonight, which was a good thing. And my thing is, Danny, I'm going to need you to go in there and take a bath and wash all that crap up off of you, all that negativity. You've been out all day long. You've been reading the girls for filth. You down to the bar drinking. You over there pimp walking, gangster leaning. You wallowing all over the floor with Jonah like you in WWE match. You got to go take you a hot shower, girl, before you get into bed. You already told Q you don't want outside clothes in your bed, so you just going to take your socks off and get into bed with them tight jeans on and bodysuit, girl. No, go get you a hot shower and then go get into bed. That way you can get you some real rest. Okay, girl? So it's the next morning and we hear Danny's alarm clock going off. So Preston, he comes out and he's like, well, you got about 2 hours before you get to work. She's like, yeah, I know. You know my schedule better than I do. But what I do know is that airport would not see me. You hear me? Because I know doggone well she probably got a hangover. Her body's got to be sore. I would definitely be calling in if it was me. So she's like, well, Preston, that girl is still at the hotel. Like, Danny, your eyes ain't been open 2 whole minutes and you already worrying about Mindy. So Preston tells her that he's going to fly Mindy back home and he's coming back to stay with her. And Danny's like, well, I don't need you to do that. So Preston has to let her know, look, Jonah made bail last night. So now she's sitting up alert. Like, how was he able to get out? Preston says, I don't know, but he must be connected in some way. So Jonah must be over there connected to Councilman Tate from Power, because I don't know how the hell he got out of jail. So apparently he know people in high places, and we will see Jonah again. So she asks Preston, well, how do you know? He tells her that he looked it up on the police website and he's no longer there. So basically, like he said, he's coming back there to stay with her for a while. And, she said what she said, and he was like, well, if you feel like that I've, overstepped boundaries or whatever, maybe you can go stay with one of your friends. Danny says she's not going to let Jonah run her away from her home. So after all of that, Preston did convince her to let him stay with her. So Preston tells her that he fixed breakfast, and she was like, yeah, I smell it. And I also heard you. I guess he was making a whole lot of noise. So now we can call Preston David Copperfield, because, baby, where he found an egg, a piece of sausage, a piece of bacon from is beyond me, because that refrigerator was clearly on E when she got home last night. You hear me? So anyway, she says that he needs to call Mindy. Still worried about Mindy. He said, yeah, I'm going to call her. And then she was like, well, I don't understand you guys, you people, how you guys operate. Preston was like, girl, you got 2 hours to get to work. Go in there and get in the bathroom and get yourself dressed and together. So she made her way to the bathroom finally. So we head over there to Zach and Fatima's, and Zach, he's in the kitchen fixing breakfast. Fatima, she comes down fully dressed. Zach is like, he's trying to make her breakfast in bed. She's ruining the moment. And she's like, look, I got to get to work. Zach is like, well, you don't have to be to work for another 2 hours. Same thing Preston said. And she's like, no, I'm already late because we have an early deposition today. And he was like, basically, Zach thought he was going to get some coochie after he gave her the breakfast in bed. So that's what that was about. She was like, look, no, I got to go. And plus your breakfast gives me heartburn anyway. So he was like, what, you trying to say I can't cook? So in so many words, she basically tell him that's just not what he's good at. But he is good at other things. So she asks him what is his plans for today. And he tells her he's going to call Heather because he wants to be officially introduced to Michael. She told him that was a good idea. So Zach asked her, did she want to come with him to go see Michael? And she was like, yeah, if you can wait till I get off from work. So he didn't have a problem with that. So then she was like, well, maybe you should go now just in case things are bad. And he was like, well, what if it is bad? And she was like, well, we talked about it and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So she drank some coffee and she really didn't like the coffee, I guess. So he called her ungrateful, jokingly playing with him. So they hug each other and give each other a kiss, basically wishing each other to have a great day. So Zach calls Heather. She answers the phone and she's like, well, who is this calling me this early in the morning? He says, it's Zach. So she's like, well, I just got in at 6. He said, well, it's 7 o'clock. She said, like I said, I just got in. And he's like, well, where's Michael? She tells him that Michael is in the room. Do you want me to go wake him up? Zach is like, no, don't do that. But I do want to see him today. And she was like, okay, like, you giving me this money, you can see him anytime you want. Zach is like, gee, thanks. Like, girl, that's all she thinking about is them $2,000. So Zach was like, he wanted to come around 1 o'clock. And she was like, no, come around 3 because she need to get some sleep. So Zach said, well, go ahead and get some sleep. Just send me the address. And he was like, well, let me ask you a question. Who's watching him while you're asleep? So she tells him that while she's at work, actually, her sister watches him. And then in the daytime, while her sister is at work, she, quote unquote, watches her son, but she's asleep. Zach like, well, you said you gonna be asleep. And she's like, well, he got his iPad, his games, and the TV. And Zach was like, well, so he's gonna be in the house for hours on end by himself. She was like, I'm in the house. The door gonna be locked. He gonna be all right. Zach was like, oh, just send me the address. I'm coming over there. She's like, make sure it's after 3. So we go over there with Hayden and Tamara, and they over there loving on each other, and she's bigging his head up as usual, letting them know how good he puts it on her, and he's such a good man. So she asked him, does he think that she'll get the job at the firm? He says when he get to work that he'll make things happen. He'll look into it. But as we remember, Fatima took the application that she put in and had it pulled from HR. So that's going to be an issue when he gets there and finds that out. So we'll see what happens with that. So she tells him thanks for everything and that she probably will bring him some lunch because she can't stay away from him. And he's, just skinning and grinning and just loving every minute of everything she's saying. And he's like, oh, yeah, whatever you bring me, I'm going to eat it. I said, oh, so y'all doing it like that in the office? I said, all right, then. So he tells her he'll see her later. So, they give each other the eyes. He's walking off and he couldn't even get in the bedroom or wherever good enough. And she pulling her phone out, calling Fatima. So Fatima, she answers the phone and she's basically calling her to give her an update about the fact that he's falling for her and wants to know what her next move is. And Fatima is like, well, I'll keep you posted. So Tamara over there lying her behind off talking about, oh, he wants to get me a job at the firm and he wants to see me all the time there. And Fatima was like, girl, I told you that's not going to be a good idea. So Tamara, she brings up, what about pay? And Fatima was like, pay? She was like, did my cousin have you do this for me? And she was like, yeah, but I wanted to discuss like money. Like, how am I getting paid for my services, basically? And Fatima like, ain't he giving you gifts? She was like, yeah, but, she was like, well, then that's your pay. I'm like, nah, girl, it don't work like that. But anyway, she was like, well, I was thinking that it could be a bigger bag in this whole plan. So Tamara keeps saying she want to have it all. She want to take everything. And Fatima's like, that's not part of the plan. So she was like, well, I was just thinking. She tells me, I don't need you to think. I'm like, ooh, that was a little rude, Fatima. That was a little rude. And basically she hangs up like she got to go. They hang up the phone. And Tamara basically is like, I don't know who the hell she thinks she talking to, but I'm taking all this. So Tamara don't give a damn. I think she kind of cuckoo. And I think she's going to be a problem in the long run for everybody until Madam have to come and handle the situation. So we see Pam and she gets a phone call from Bugaboo Aaron. And she's like, well, how did you get my phone number? Mind you, he never answered the question because I would love to know, how did you get Pam's phone number with your creepy behind? So he's asked her, has she spoken to Karen? And she's like, well, have you tried to call her? Aaron says she's not answering. So Pam says, well, that means she don't want to talk to your ass, basically. And she brings up Jennifer and Aaron says it's not what you think. So they go back and forth with the whole Karen and text her and call her again and this and that. And he trying to send a message through Pam to tell her this and that. And so after going back and forth and Pam wasn't telling Aaron what he wanted to hear, he's like, I don't even know why I called you. Pam was like, well, I don't either. She said, look, you fine and cute and all, but just lose my number. And Aaron, I'm not Karen's personal secretary. And he was like, well, you kind of are. And she was like, well, not on my time and not on my dime, my phone, so, like, she don't have to take no damn messages and all that when she not at work. So As she's getting ready to hang up the phone with him, she rolls up on the salon and she was like, oh my God, the salon. And I guess she is in amazement as to what she's seeing, the aftermath, I guess, of the fire. So Aaron, he hears that because she didn't completely hang up the phone. And he's like, Pam, what happened? Hello? She doesn't respond. And the episode ends there. So what did you guys think of this week's episode? Drop down in the comments below and let me know your thoughts. As always, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.